Star Wars Tabletop Gaming is proudly supported by Gatekeeper Games, your key to gaming unplugged. A tabletop games store offering a friendly atmosphere for people to buy and play their games in the north of Fitzroy. Welcome to episode 19 of Star Wars Tabletop Gaming. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the recently revealed Fleet Trooper and Leia Organa expansions. The Fleet Troopers being the new core unit for the Rebels, and Leia being another commander that the Rebels can take onto the battlefield. So this saga all started a couple of weeks ago when a cheeky Instagram user, I guess, spoiled a picture of a bunch of board games, and within there we could see that there was the Fleet expansion and the Leia expansion just sitting there out in the open, no explanation. Absolutely nuts. So it was clear that that's what the Rebels were getting to match the Hoth troops that the Imperials saw. Interestingly, we were all expecting Rebel Hoth units, that is the Echo-based troops, and maybe a Leia or a Han in Echo-based themed armor and equipment, etc. That is not what we got. So FFG once again proving they'll just do what they want. They'll pick the units they think are cool and they'll release them. So that's random and really cool. But either way, I really like the Fleet Troopers. I think they're a great unit and just so iconic to Star Wars. I mean, they're the first kind of units we see. The first things we see are C-3PO and R2-D2 in A New Hope, and then right after that we see some Fleet Troopers kind of running past to protect Leia. So really cool. I think they're super iconic, super great. We bandied around on Facebook before the rules came out about what they can do, and we weren't actually that far off. That is getting bonuses to their ready, or what do we call it? Is it a ready action, or is it a... Yeah, after they perform a standby action. There we go, a standby action. So that's what we thought that they'd get, because of course what we see them doing is lining up on the walls of Tantive 4, waiting for the stormtroopers to burst in and then try and cut them down. Not particularly effectively, but we'll have a look at their dice and see why once we get to the unit. So there we go. So we know what all of the Wave 1 expansions now are. The extra Imperial and Rebel units will get to us in due time. They're obviously not included with the core set units that we're going to get first up, and that are actually already at the distributors, just waiting to get to us and waiting for FFG to give a release date. But without further ado, let's get into the units and see what they're bringing to the tabletop. So we're going to start off with the Fleet Troopers. Fleet Troopers are super cool. I really enjoyed the miniatures, especially their leader dude there in his kind of rebel officer uniform, Alderaanian uniform perhaps, holding up his hand, just saying "with me." Anyway, cool miniatures. Really enjoy them. The paint jobs that we're seeing aren't fantastic. I don't know why that is. I know FFG have access to some wonderful painters, but we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to Leia. But either way, let's go through the unit. So they are a core unit. Their special wording is Ready 1, which says after you perform a standby action, gain 1 aim token. So that's really cool. So these guys are going to be used to, I guess, run into some cover, because they're going to need it with only one defense dice, and just go on standby and wait for the enemy to come to them, which makes sense because their weapons are only range 2. That is 1 to 2, which is about 12 inches. They're DH-17 blaster pistols, but they do have 2 white dice. So these guys put out twice the amount of firepower that Stormtroopers do, which is pretty significant, especially considering they cost the same points. As I said, their defense dice is only white, so they're not as well defended as Stormtroopers, but really cool is that they have both offensive and defensive surges into hits or into blocks, which is really powerful. So it's going to mean those white dice are doing a bit more work, especially when they get their free aim action. So they have 1 health, 1 courage, pretty standard for troops, 4 in the basic unit, as we've seen. Same kind of upgrades, and they have a black dice in close combat. So what we can see from this reveal article is a scattergun trooper with range 1 to 2 with 2 red dice, which is super good, especially with Pierce 1. And yeah, 23 points. So that's great. That's a great gun. And he's going to do some serious work if you've got that on standby, just waiting for them to get into range. The other one is the MPL 57 something something, grenade launcher of some description. Let's see if the article tells us what it's called. There we go. It just says MPL 57 grenade launcher. Excellent. So we can see there it's got blast and it's got impact too. So it's going to be a pretty sweet anti-vehicle weapon. And I think the special weapons that we've got here in this unit are nothing to scoff at. So those are pretty much the rules that come along with the Fleet Troopers. So the way you're going to be using these is to kind of run up nice and quick, get behind some cover, hunker down on some objectives, and let the enemy come to you. I think they're a great unit. They're obviously visually very different from the Rebel Troopers we've already got in the core box set. I personally cannot wait to build a Starship kind of battlefield that is a spaceship interior board, and to have these guys running around and repelling stormtroopers or not repelling them, as the case may be. Other things they have the grappling hooks that we've seen in all the troop expansions come out so far, and these guys have impact grenades. I still haven't worked out. I'm pretty sure with grenades you only get to throw one as kind of an extra weapon that gets fired. I don't know quite how they work yet. We'll have to wait for the rules to see that. But I don't believe, for only the 5 points that we're spending on these grenades, that every single trooper is going to get to throw an impact grenade. That seems way too powerful. So I think it's just an extra little black dice or whatever here or there that adds a bit of flavor and helps you take down a vehicle when I guess their white dice otherwise wouldn't be very impactful. All right, not much more to say about the Fleet Troopers. I mean, just that they put out some serious firepower. The picture we see here, I mean, with only 4 of them, they're putting out 8 white dice. That is insane, especially when their surges are turning to hits. It's a lot of firepower. So great to see. They're a bit of a glass cannon, this unit, which I certainly don't have a problem with. So that's all we really know about the Fleet Troopers. We'll, of course, get a more detailed article later on when FFG have had time to catch up and actually do up a proper article. I dare say these two that we've got here may have been a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to the spoiler image that came out on Instagram. So that is the Fleet Troopers. Moving on, let's have a look at the Leia Organa Commander expansion. So Leia is obviously one of the most iconic characters of Star Wars in regards to being a leader. It's what she does. So let's look at her rules. She's meant to be a diplomat, but her rules certainly lend to her putting out some firepower as well. She's about buffing your troops. Luke's obviously about cutting down the enemy. Leia is all about helping you guys out. So she has 6 health and 2 courage, just like we saw with Veers. That looks to be the stock standard for support characters. I think she's only 90 points, so nice and affordable. I'm definitely more interested in her than I am in Luke, because it means I get to take plenty more troops. She has a white defense die. She has some surges. Her offensive surges go to crits, which is very nice. And she has a defensive surge to block as well. Her weapon is 3 black dice, only range 2, but 3 black dice is pretty good for a small blaster. And Pierce 1 as well. Close combat, 3 black dice is certainly nothing to scoff at either with her martial arts. Right, you can put a bunch of, whatever they're called, leader upgrades, I guess, on her. But let's look at her keywords. This is where Leia really shines. So she's got take cover 2, and it's got a little arrow next to it, which means I'm guessing it's an action that she has to take to do this. Makes sense. So choose up to 2 friendly trooper units at range 1. Each chosen unit gains a dodge token. So she's going to mesh really well with those rebel trooper units who are already working and getting free dodge tokens as well. This is going to make them super survivable. She's got Inspire too, which is after your rally step, remove up to 2 suppression tokens from other friendly units at range 1 to 2. Notably, it's units. So if you had 2 trooper units with 1 extra suppression token on them each, you could remove both of those. Or if it's 1 unit with 2 suppression tokens, take that off. Combined with the fact that we know that leaders boost morale from trooper units around them, this is going to be really powerful to make sure units are actually taking the amount of actions you want them to and moving forward as well as firing at the same time. Shouldn't be underestimated. I think suppression is going to be a huge part of this game, which means Leia herself will be quite powerful with that Inspire too. She's got Nimble, which comes into, that's the same as the Rebel Troopers. That is helping her do some free dodge shenanigans, making her a little more survivable. And she's got Sharpshooter too, which is very nice. So, which is when performing a ranged attack, reduce the defender's cover by 2. So, picking troops out of cover, which is really nice. She's got esteemed leader and all that kind of stuff that we saw with Veers as well. So I want to talk about that in a second, but quickly we'll just look at the only order we can really see of hers, and that's kind of got one initiative. So you're going to be going first, or second, if they put down a first initiative order as well, depending on who's got whatever that means. I don't know. Rules. We haven't got them yet. We'll get there. Either way, this order is fast, and it reads at the end of Leia Organa's activation, she may perform up to 3 attacks against different enemy units using the following weapon. And that is range 4 and out. So it has to be more than range 4 away from her. So you're going to be wanting to use this in early turns. And doing 2 red damage to each of those units. Now, I think turn 2 is going to be the perfect time to use this when units are kind of getting into that range of their main weapons. And she gets the ability, I mean, 2 red dice is certainly not meaningless. It'll pick off 1 or 2 enemy, but more importantly, it's going to be putting suppression tokens onto the enemy units right from the get-go before anything else happens, right at the start of the turn, which means if it's a trooper unit, you're going to be cutting their actions in half with 1 suppression token. So they're only getting 1 action now with 1 suppression token, and I think that is the real powerful ability that we've got with Leia here, is to just almost shut down the opponent's turn, or at least stop them moving or stop them firing, one or the other. In probably the second turn of the game would be the best time to use that, when push is coming to shove, which means you can move on to the objectives, or you can get the upper hand with firepower. I am just all over this order. I think it's fantastic, and Leia is definitely going to be a key player in my Rebel armies. I'll talk about the miniature herself very briefly. There's been a lot of negative energy over this miniature. Look, okay, it's not fantastic. If you look at the render here, we'll bring up the render. Look, it's not bad at all. The miniature is absolutely fine. Look, it looks pretty badass and pretty tough, but I'm absolutely fine with that. It hasn't got, the delicate, fragile features that Leia did in the movie, but it's a princess in battle, and she's there to kick ass, and it's awesome. I think the main issue is that the paint job that we've got in the reveal article here isn't fantastic. I think the skin color's a bit tanned, they've gone a bit heavy with the eyes, and it makes it look a little ridiculous. But I think, look, if you do a better paint job and you can paint a nice lighter skin tone, I think this miniature will be absolutely fine, and I think everyone just needs to get over it. FFG are doing their best. So, Leia, that's pretty much what she's about. That's her rules. I can't wait to see more of her orders. If they're as powerful and as interesting as the one order that we've got there, I think she's going to be a great character to get on the battlefield. She's obviously going to be most powerful when supporting your troops. As we see here in the picture, she's taking those 2 suppression tokens off troops. We totally needed a picture to explain how that works. And suppression is going to be huge. And if they're focusing on a unit and that unit's got 3 suppression tokens on it at the end of a turn, 1 pops off, Leia activates next turn and takes another 2 off as well, which is going to be excellent. Oh wait, she takes them off at the end of the turn, doesn't she? Inspire 2 after your rally step. Fantastic. You don't even have to wait. She does it at the end of the turn automatically. So that is Leia. That's all we really know about her. They've obviously got her in these pictures with the fleet troops. I think she'll perform really well with them, helping them out, giving them those free dodge tokens, which I really think they're going to need, being pretty fragile and having to get up close to be effective as well, as opposed to the rebel troopers, which can stand off a bit. So that is Leia. So that is all of the Rebel expansions that we can expect in the near future now. We've got them. We've seen them. They're not Hoth themed. They are, for some reason, Fleet Trooper and I guess Leia's kind of Endor themed with what she's wearing there. Would have loved to see her in a poncho, but that's okay. I'm excited to get these units on the table. I think the Rebels are where I'm going to really focus at first. Partly because a lot of people I know are going to go Imperial, and I love bucking the trend, but also because I'm super keen for airspeeders. So, I hope you enjoyed looking at these 2 expansions. I hope you've learned something, seen something you hadn't seen previously. Until next time, may the Force be with you.